Elbaf! Elbaf, right? Elbaf! Kind of Elbaf. Lego Elbaf! Lego Elbaf! Alright. Yep, okay. It's gonna be a long... Hey, for those people out there that are thinking Elbaf is gonna be a short arc, you better hope it is, because I'm gonna start every single one of these with screaming Elbaf. Alright, so you might want to hope Elbaf is only like a 20-chapter arc, okay? But if it's like 85 chapters, oh... Gotta say though, one thing I'm really liking about the outfit, I really love the cloak. I think I'm gonna start wearing cloaks more. Okay. This will be One Piece, chapter 1126 review titled, Taking Responsibility. This is referring to something from Bartolomeo in this chapter. That's right, the Barto Club is back. I wonder what they're gonna get up to. I don't know. Find out this week on One Piece. Alright, it's a cavalcade of comedy. It really is. Alright, continuing Yamato's cover story. Yamato's hanging out at a soba shop in the Kuri region, eating some soba, and one of the waitresses at the soba shop is like, hey, a lot of other people that used to work here aren't here anymore. It's like, why? It's like, well, they were kidnapped. It's like, huh, just like Minatomo was kidnapped in the last cover story from the construction site. Also, like that woman that was almost kidnapped in the forest until I stopped the kidnapper from doing that. I wonder if there's a connection here. So yeah, Yamato is going to go on a quest to save all of the people that have been kidnapped, and we don't know who the person is yet. Might be one of the remnants from the Beast Pirates wandering around. Could be, who was the guy? Who was the lion? Hold'em. Yeah, I don't think it was Hold'em. I don't think it's that guy, because we saw the person running away, and they clearly seemed like normal human proportions. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know who it is. Maybe it is one of the scabbards, although I can't really imagine why one of the scabbards would be kidnapping people. But yeah, that's a mystery is afoot. So here we go. Oh, by the way, something I probably could just look up. In the background of this cover page, you see one of the houses in Kuri, right? And all the houses are obviously based off of like Edo period Japan, right? Well, I've seen this before in anime, and I do not know what the function of it is. It's a house that has a slanting roof, and there's rocks and stones on the roof. Like, it's a slanting roof, and there's like little like shelves that people put rocks on. Is that just to keep like the roof from like falling apart in the wind, or to like add an extra protection or something? Like, what's the purpose of putting like, I've seen this before and I never really understood it. So let me know on what the function of that is. That'll be something for the comments. Okay, so we continue on with the Straw Hats. That's right, we didn't see the Straw Hats at all last chapter, but we see them in this chapter. They're still sailing towards Elbaf aboard, well, they got the Great Eirik. Some of the Straw Hats are aboard the Great Eirik, and then you have the Sunny that's kind of connected to the Great Eirik via like a rope. Some of the Straw Hats are hanging out there. Keep in mind which ones are on the Great Eirik and which ones are on the Sunny. There will be a test at the end of the chapter. But you know what's crazy is they finally reference why Dory and Bragi are even here right now, which is crazy because all the stuff that's been going on with Egghead, you know, giant yokai monsters attacking, I honestly kind of forgot, like, oh yeah, Dory and Bragi were supposed to be dueling. No, you know, that was supposed to be a duel, and it was like a whole thing where it's like, only one of us can return to Elbaf. You know, and it's like, all right, well, they were both at Elbaf, so what happened there, right? Now, I came up with a couple of theories for this. One such theory was that somebody returns to Little Garden, could have been Oimo and Kashi, could have been somebody from Elbaf, with, like, explicit orders from, like, Odin, who is the king of the giants. Like, Dory and Bragi, two of our greatest warriors, you have shown yourself, you have tested your mettle in the eyes of the war god, you must return now, there's serious stuff afoot, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, and then they left. If it's like an order from the king or something like that, or maybe Shanks stopped there at some point, I don't know, but no, that's not really the reason. I mean, it does involve Oimo and Kashi, because we already kind of established that, but the reason why they returned to Elbaf, it's, okay, here it is. So, Oimo and Kashi were were imprisoned at Ennie's lobby, guarding the gate. After the events of that arc, they went back to Water 7 briefly. And then during the cover story, one of the cover stories, we see Oimo and Kashi sailing away. Now, the original plan was to, I think they said they were just returning to Elbaf and just waiting for Dory and Bragi, but that isn't the case. They actually did go to Little Garden just to see what's going on, right? Also, keep in mind, Elbaf is deep into the New World, and Water 7 to Little Garden, I mean, that is a trip, but it's not like you have to cross the red line in order to do that, right? So they left Water 7, they went to Little Garden, and remember, I mean, since Dory and Bragi at the end of Little Garden destroyed their weapons, Bragi's Bruiser Axe and then the Terry sword that Dory used, they used their ultimate final attack, Hakako! They used that ultimate giant, like, key attack, hockey key attack to, like, destroy the goldfish, the giant island-eating goldfish, right? So the Straw Hats could get away. So their weapons were destroyed. They still did have their shields, and I think in one of the cover stories we do actually see them just brawling with their shields, but eventually I think their shields also broke, you know, because they've been using these weapons for like over 100 years, right? And so eventually it came down to it where they were just like fisticuffs. They were just bare knuckles and just like, all right, Dory, let's go. Okay, Bragi, you old son of a gun. You know, and they're just brawling on Little Garden. So Oimo and Kashi roll up to this island of dinosaurs, and there's two giants just duking it out, just punching each other, right? And they came to the conclusion pretty quickly, hey man, this is a duel between two giants. It's a duel to the death. You're not going to be killing one another with just your bare hands. Now, I mean, I feel like it's definitely possible one of them could have killed the other one with their bare hands, but Oimo and Kashi really wanted them to come back home to Elbaf. So what they did is, it's like, hey, guys, bosses, what's up? And it's like, oh, hey, Oimo, hey, Kashi, what's been going on? It's like, hey, we've been waiting for like 100 years. You know, a lot of the other giants were like captured by the government. We were working at Ennie's lobby for the last 50 years being doormen, basically. When are you guys coming back home? And it's like, oh, well, we gotta duel. We've been dueling. That's what we do. We're giants. We duel. And it's like, that's great, but, hey, you're not going to be able to finish this duel bare knuckles, right? You understand? Like, you know, you got to get some weapons. It's like, yeah, our weapons broke. There were some pirates that came by a while ago. We had to kill a giant goldfish. You know how it is. Sure. But, yeah, I mean, if you want to get, how about you take a break? You know, go back home to Elbaf, get yourself a nice new sword and a nice shiny new axe, maybe some new shields, take a shower, and, you know, maybe come back here and then continue your duel. And Dory and Bragi were like, well, it has been about 100 years. Yeah, maybe we should take a little bit of a break. I am getting kind of tired of eating dinosaur meat. I mean, at first it was pretty badass, but when every single meal for the last century has been Brontosaurus, you know, after a while you get kind of sick of it. All right, I guess we'll head back home. And that's the story of why they were there. So they go back home to Elbaf, they get a new sword and a new axe and some new gear. They met Shanks there when Shanks was at Elbaf getting a little drink, and he decimates Eustace Kid's crew. They destroy the ship, and then they head over to Egghead, and now that's where they're at. All right. So Nami is bringing it up, and she's like, hey, so the only reason you went back home was to get new weapons, so you're still gonna duel to the death. And Dory and Bragi at the same time are like, well, of course! I love this knucklehead. I love this guy too. You know, it is gonna be really sad when, like, because, you know, we saw this, like, at Little Garden when Mr. 3 interrupted the duel and Bragi sliced down Dory. Like, Bragi immediately started weeping. This was before he knew there was any trickery afoot, before Mr. 3 had interfered, right? This was like a whole thing where it was like, oh, Dory, you were my best friend and now you're dead. And then they found out he was still alive. It was like, oh, you're still alive, Dory. Oh, man, I don't know what I would have done if you would have died. And here, it's like, yeah, of course, we're gonna duel to the death someday. So it really speaks volumes about the culture in Elbaf, you know, how this dueling culture really works, where it's like, Dory and Bragi are sworn brothers, basically. Like, they do genuinely love each other, okay? But one of them's gotta die because that's how this works. Ultimately, that's the way they're looking at it. And I don't think Oda will go that direction. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe after the events of, like, the final war and everything, that, like, the events of this story, when Dory and Bragi finally decide, like, okay, that was a wild adventure. You know, we helped to save the world, and Luffy's the pirate king. All right, time to go back to it. I would rather prefer, if we do see like an epilogue and we see Dory and Bragi one last time before the end of the story, we just see them on Little Garden returning to their duel with fresh weapons. We don't see who wins it. We just, the duel continues maybe for another 100 years, you know what I mean? I would probably like to see it like that. But, you know, so Nami is just like, you guys are still gonna fight? Of course we are! I cannot even with you guys. This is ridiculous. Just, you don't even know why you're fighting anymore. Just give it up. And then Usopp chimes in. He's like, Nami, did you learn nothing from Little Garden? I learned dinosaurs are real, Usopp, which was something I did not expect. And then we fought them at Onigashima. Yes, I learned things at Little Garden, okay? So, Luffy's in the background like, you tell her, Usopp. Just like, she doesn't know anything about the honor of fighting to the death on a dinosaur island as volcanoes erupt in the background. You know, it's truly the most manly way to die. It's like, yeah. Anyway, Sanji's drinking some booze. I mean, Zoro's drinking. They're all pounding back a bunch of booze. Nami's even pounding back a bunch of booze. Remember, Nami has like one of the highest alcohol tolerances out of all of the Straw Hats. That was a question that was actually revealed recently in the SBS, and I think the one that has the highest out of all the Straw Hats is actually Jinbei now, which makes sense, because Jinbei is like a big whale shark fish man, but he drinks a lot of sake, right? So anyway, we have Zoro there pounding it back. Sanji's like, hey man, this is some strong booze. Turns out it's absinthe, and it's called the Green Fairy. And one of the giants is like, be careful, you drink too much of it, you start to see some weird shit, man. Oh, one of these days I was pounded back. I thought I was flying on a magical unicorn in the stars. It was wild. Turns out I was just riding the back of an Elbaf cow. And trust me, those things buck, if you know what I'm telling you, know what I'm saying, right? Okay, anyway. Yeah, so really strong booze that if you drink too much of it, you begin to hallucinate. Maybe bookmark that for later. That might also be relevant. So we see a couple of like just panels, no dialogue. We just see some panels of the Straw Hats palling around with the giants. We see Robin and Lilith eating a bunch of the food, and Luffy's jumping around with a giant piece of mutton on his back. We see Brook jamming out with the giants that look like, you know, like I don't know, Van Halen or something like that. I'm Val Allen. You know, we have Jinbei there. We have Usopp and Sanji drinking together. They're happy, like, Sanji, I love you, man. We're going to Elbaf. See Frankie and Chopper doing a pose. Nami's laughing. Zoro's laughing. Everybody's having a good time. We see 3 panels with Bonnie and Kuma, and these are nice. It's just Bonnie there next to her dad. Kuma is not really moving all that much, but he is smiling, so there's a little bit of Kuma still in there. There's gotta be a little bit of Kuma's personality in there. He's smiling, finally being reunited with his daughter, and he's not saying anything, but Bonnie is like, we're finally together. We finally get to see the horizon together and journey throughout the world, because that was what their plan was, to travel the world together. And so Bonnie's just there hanging out in Kuma's arms, and just they're happy. So honestly, you know, people wanted Bonnie and Kuma to just join the Straw Hats permanently. Honestly, I kind of want them to just stay in Elbaf where they're safe. Because I don't know, like the giants, unless something horrible happens at Elbaf where all the giants are like wiped out or the world government invades or something, Elbaf should be a pretty safe haven. You know what I mean? So if Bonnie and Kuma just spend the rest of their days together, you know, in Elbaf, and they just don't have to worry about fighting anymore, I think that would be fine, considering all the shit they've been through, you know? So anyway, we see just a panel of them sailing off. We have the Great Eirik, giant Viking longship. We have the Sunny tethered to it, and then we cut away from that scene. All right. So now, just over a month ago, a certain incident occurred here at Gartel Island in the New World. All right, So, a little bit of a recap on what Bartolomeo has been up to. So, a while back when we saw the exploits of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet cover spread, we saw Bartolomeo on a random island. It was actually this Gartel Island here. I want to like Cartel Island. Like, I don't know if there's like a drug cartel on the island or whatever. Gartel Island. And what Bartolomeo was doing along with his crew, remember, they were, trying to preach the gospel of Luffy Senpai, as it were. They were just like, hello everybody, I am here to tell you the great word of our Lord and Savior, Luffy Senpai. Here, purchase a bunch of random crap that I made. Here, would you like a special made Luffy rug? It'll look fantastic in your YouTube studio. Absolutely amazing. And/or kitchen and/or bathroom. It's a fabulous rug. I'll sell it to you. A special sale, only 200 million berries. There you go for Luffy Senpai. Any less would not be worth it, okay? So he's trying to sell all this crap to these townsfolk, and they have no idea, like what's going on here. They don't know who Bartolomeo is. They don't know who Luffy is, or maybe they do, but they're not really paying attention. And they're like, it's all right. And they even point out, like, hey, this is red-haired Shanks' island. This is his territory. And they look up and they see the flag of the red-haired pirates. And Shanks does not, Bartolomeo does not know that Shanks and Luffy have a connection. He doesn't know that. So Bartolomeo, in just a moment of ignorance, is just like, oh, what? Oh, red-haired Shanks. He's the one that's the boss of this island? Oh, screw red-haired Shanks. And he just lights the flag on fire. And he's like, we're the new bosses of this island. All right, I think that was Bartolomeo remember, Bartolomeo used to lead a gang back in Logtown, right? And actually, I think he led more gangs or had control over more towns than Arlong did, if you look at the straight numbers, which is funny to me. But anyway, Bartolomeo, that's how he's used to doing things. He wanders into a town and he's like, we're taking over. It's like, this other gang is the one that's already in charge. He's like, screw that gang, and he like burns down their flag. He's like, now we're in charge. It doesn't work too well when you're this deep in the new world and you're messing with one of the Yonko. So Shanks mentioned, as when they were leaving Wano, like, hey, there's some like upstart guy named Bartolomeo. He's burning down our flags. We should probably go and deal with this guy. And Shanks is like, okay. So Shanks is there. They have Bartolomeo tied up, arms, tied behind his back. He's on the ground, like, begging for mercy. The rest of the Barto Club don't seem like that injured. Like, we see Gambia there and everything, and they're just kind of backing up, like, he's like, oh, Captain, please. And so it looks like Shanks and Ben Beckman, and then you see the top officers of the Red Hair crew, they kind of gave Bartolomeo a walloping. We don't really see the fight or anything like that. I am very curious how the barrier fruit would hold up to a Kamusari from Shanks. I'm very curious on how that would go. You would assume that, like, well, hey, barriers block everything. Did they block a hockey shockwave, though? So, like, for example, if Bartolomeo is like, there's Shanks over there, barrier. Shanks is so fast, he might have been able to cut up, Bartolomeo without even, like, before he could even cross his fingers and summon the barriers. But I'm just like, here he comes, barrier, and he just makes a perfect cube, the perfect cubed barrier, and Shanks comes flying in, full power, one-armed Kamusari, and then just slams it right into the barrier, just sword coming in contact with the barrier. What would happen? Would the shockwave still permeate the barrier and knock Bartolomeo out? Because you might say, well, the force of Shanks hitting the barrier would send it flying away, like a steel box getting thrown around, and like Bartolomeo gets knocked out that way. But that's not the way that it works. The barrier does break physics, where the king punch from Elisabello II, you just whoa, and then he just threw up a barrier, and that barrier didn't move a centimeter. All right, it doesn't get pushed back or anything like that. No, that's not how the barrier works. It just breaks physics, I guess, right? So I'm very curious how that would have gone. Probably that's not what happened. Bartolomeo was probably just walking through town, getting drunk, being an idiot, and then, he heard a voice behind him, and he's like, hey, heard you're picking a fight with the Red Hair crew. And Bartolomeo's there drunk, he's just like, yeah, what's it to you? And then it's Ben Beckman behind him with his rifle, and just boom! boom, just smacks him over the head. That's probably what happened, because Bartolomeo has a giant whelp on the side of his head, right? So Shanks is there, and he's a very reasonable guy. This is not his first rodeo. This is not the first time some upstart kid burned a flag of his or invaded his territory and, you know, challenged him to a fight or whatever. Not the first time. So Shanks is like, look, yeah, many of the islands that I'm in charge of rely on this flag for protection, so I can't have you going around burning it down, man. I can't have you doing this shit. I really get the impression here Shanks isn't going to straight up murder the guy in a city street. Like, remember even with Kid, he didn't kill Kid. Or, I mean, it wasn't, I guess, Shanks that did that. It was Ben Beckman, but Ben Beckman, I guess, ripped off Kid's arm is the one that did that. So he let him go with a warning. He's, you know, lost an arm, but that counts as a warning in the pirate world, right? So Shanks is like, hey, my friends and allies would become targets if anybody could just go and burn my flag and I wouldn't do anything about it, then I gotta teach you a lesson, man. That's how this goes, right? And so Bartolomeo is actually, you know, he's just like, I am so sorry. Please forgive us. We were not thinking about this. Just please forgive us. And the townspeople are there. There's one dude that's just smiling. There's one dude smoking his pipe and it's just like, yes, squirm, pirate scum, squirm. Daddy Shanks is in town, yes. You know, and then we see Shanks too, and Shanks is like, he's just this blubbering mess in front of him is Bartolomeo. Like, please, let me too, please. And then Shanks is like, you know, this would be a lot easier if you weren't like a blubbering mess on the floor in front of me, but it still has to happen no matter what. So we have Hongo. Hongo is the doctor of the red-haired pirates, and he sits down next to Bartolomeo, and he pulls out a vial that has a skull and crossbones on it, and he says, hey, look, your boss is Straw Hat Luffy, right? You know, you're part of his grand fleet. All right, well, tell you what, we'll let you go. But you gotta make sure he drinks this poison in 1 month, and it'll kill him, and it'll kill him bad. I mean, it'll cause him to cough up all the blood in his body, he'll writhe in pain, seizures. It's not gonna be pretty. It's gonna be a pretty damn painful death. You give this to your boss, and we'll let you go. And Bartolomeo's looking at it, and he's like, what? Huh? You gotta do that, Luffy senpai? And so Gambia and all the other members of the Barto Club are like, there's no way we could do that, not to Luffy. And Bartolomeo, keep in mind, he has his hands are tied behind his back. Probably also so he can't use the barrier. But also, Bartolomeo just grabs the poison with his mouth right out of Hongo's hands and just downs it, the whole thing right there. And everybody, all of the Barto Club is like, what's happening, boss? You can't die, no! And Shanks and Ben Beckman are sitting there and just like, okay. Didn't expect that. And just like, yeah. And then Bartolomeo actually has this great moment where he's just crying out, and what he thinks is his last few seconds of life, where he's just like, Luffy senpai never asked us to follow him. He never asked us to share sake cups. That was stuff that we pushed on him. You know, he is not involved in this. I can't, and I'm not going to let him spend even 1 second of his time wasted on me. This is just another example of some stupid upstart from, you know, the East Blue causing a problem with a Yonko and immediately getting killed. Nothing to write home about. That happens every day in the Grand Line. That's just what happened. Another idiot that ran afoul of a Yonko thinking they were hot shit. We were not hot shit in a champagne glass. We were just cold diarrhea in a Dixie cup. Just take my life for you, Shanks! Ugh. He like burps a little bit, like, well, I'm not dead, you know? And Shanks is just sitting there and he's just like, okay. And he doesn't even really say anything. He just kind of like, just kind of looks at Bartolomeo. And then Bartolomeo realizes he's not going to die, that what Hongo gave him was not really poison. And then the very next panel is just all of the Barto Club back on the Going Luffy senpai, their ship, sailing away from Gartel Island. Just like, I can't believe they let us get away, that was wild! You know, so it was like a loyalty test that Shanks gave him. And just like, oh, Luffy's your boss, right? I don't think Shanks told them anything about like, oh, you know Luffy? I know Luffy. In fact, the reason I'm missing this arm, fun story, you know? Shanks didn't say anything like that. Shanks was just like, who's your boss? It's Luffy. Okay. All right. Drink this poison, or you give this poison to him, right? Okay, so it was a loyalty test. Bartolomeo passed it, so they're free to go, right? That's not how Shanks rolls, guys. I think I'm noticing a theme with Shanks here. After witnessing what happened with Eustace, I'm seeing a theme, all right? So they get on the ship, they begin to sail away, and they're like, oh, I guess that poison was fake. And Bartolomeo's like, yeah, I guess it was. Huh, I passed the test. They let me leave. Man, that was wild. I could have really sworn one of the 4 emperors, they would be way more ruthless than that. Man, he was a little bit softer than I expected. Oh well, doesn't matter now. We're back on our ship, the Going Luffy-senpai. Everybody's together, we're sailing away. We're not gonna mess with Shanks again, I'll tell you what. New adventures. Alright, cutting back to the Red Force. Ben Beckman and Shanks are actually having a nice lighthearted conversation. Shanks is laughing, and he's just like, and Ben Beckman's like, what are you laughing for? He's like, how can I not laugh? You know, that's somebody that he's really loyal to Luffy. You know, that's really cool. Luffy could inspire somebody like that, or there's people out here that really would be willing to die like that for Luffy, no questions asked. He's so dedicated, man. You know, if we met under different circumstances, maybe we would have had a drink together. Oh, well, it's whatever. Anyway, Yasopp steps up with his rifle, and he's like, hey, Shanks, can you just, hey, boss, can you step like 2 inches off to the left here? I gotta place my gun here. I'm just like... Did you ever see that WKUK sketch with the 50 cal in the bar? There's like 2 people having a conversation at a bar about a movie. Guy just walks in with like a military 50 caliber, like just drops it on the bar. He's like, I'll be out of your hair in a second, guys. Just give me a moment. Yeah, that's kind of what that reminds me of. You know, like Yasopp just comes by. He's like, yeah, just take like 2 steps back, Shanks. All right, I'll just be out of your hair in a second here. I gotta teach him a lesson. You know what I mean? All right, just line up the shot. They say if it's by land, sea, or air, one of Yasopp's bullets can rend the world asunder. Shanks got 1 arm swing, Yasopp's got the 1 bullet, alright? 1 bullet hits the Going Luffy-senpai as it's sailing away from Gartel Island, and it explodes. It explodes. The explosion has an explosion. The explosion has an explosion on top of the explosion. I don't want to say it's like a nuke going off, but like, it's a big explosion, alright? It's a giant, it dwarfs the Red Force in size and the island in its wake. Like, it is a massive explosion in the ocean. From 1 bullet! 1 bullet! Probably hockey bullets. I don't know. He loaded that thing with antimatter. I don't know. But a giant explosion from Yasopp. I think the first time we've ever seen Yasopp like do something battle related in the canon of One Piece. I saw some stuff in Film Red, but like, yeah, just 1 bullet's all it takes. Just 1 shot. Boom. Explosion. So that's a little bit of an upgrade from Usopp's exploding star. Usopp's got to have a little bit more of an upgrade on that one, right? You know, what's funny? This could be like just Yasopp's like standard explosive round. Like this is it. Just like, oh, I'm just going to give him a random common bullet that I have. You know, here you go. Boom. Turns around with his freaking rifle on his back and just being like a badass, right? Damn. On this day by Gartel Island, the Barto Club pirate ship was sunk. It is unknown if there are any survivors. And we just see the figurehead of the Luffy-senpai, like, which is Luffy's figurehead, just cracking off and then burning in the water. So, yeah, you noticing the theme here? Yeah. So, you know, people bring up, like, well, Bartolomeo was loyal to Luffy, so that means Shanks is going to take it easy on him. Look, I'm telling you what, like, if Shanks and Bartolomeo would have met under different circumstances, like, if Bartolomeo was just at a random island, not an island that was allied with Shanks, just an island, you know, and Bartolomeo was in a bar drinking, and Shanks just also happened to be in town that day, just happened to wander in, and they were at a bar, and Bartolomeo was going on and on about, like, oh, Luffy-senpai is the greatest guy ever. I saw him punch Doflamingo. Here comes the giant fist, I'll tell you. And then Shanks is in the bar, too, and he's like, you know what? This guy's kind of interesting, right? Oh, what about Luffy? What's he up to? Oh, you know Luffy, old man? All right, let me tell you all about Luffy-senpai. I know Luffy-senpai, right? That might be a completely different situation, completely different scenario, but that is not how this went down, all right? This is not how this went down. Bartolomeo started a war with Shanks. You do not burn down an emperor's flag. He's not just going to show up and be like, all right, little slap on the wrist later. I don't think Bartolomeo is dead. After all, he actually, out of all of them, he does have the ability to actually create a barrier. Not a barrier that obviously protected the ship, but a barrier that could at least protect himself, right? Then again, if the ship blew up, he'd be in the water. Also, I could think like Shanks' crew, like, all right, we could kill you all here in the street, but that's, you know, that's messy, you know. I don't want to cause a massive blood. I like everywhere here, all the people have to clean it up, and your ship is still there. I'll tell you what, wait for everybody to get back on the ship, sail away at a distance, Yasopp can blow it up, and then everybody dies, the ship is destroyed. No cleanup, you know, there you go, easy. So that's a harsh way to live, but that's the way Shanks rolls, man. You know, there's always the theory that, where is Shanks at? Right here. There's always the theory that Shanks is actually evil Shanks. Oh! Dude, I don't think Shanks is evil. It's just Shanks has a reputation to uphold, you know? It's just like, look, you came into my territory, you burned my flag down. I can't just be like, oh, you're friends with Luffy, so that makes it okay. It's just like, no, this is how we do shit here in the New World. You burned my flag, you're asking for trouble. You called for me, here I am. Oh, you don't want to fight me? Okay, well, you gotta pay the punishment. That's how it goes, right? All right. So, yeah. That's what happens with Bartolomeo. He'll probably still be around. Maybe some of his crew died, and Going Luffy Senpai's gone. Yasopp killed the Going Luffy Senpai! Doesn't matter, man. Doesn't matter if you have a ship made out of Luffy. That's not going to protect you from Shanks. Okay. Anyway, cutting over now to the Pirate Island, Full of Lead Island, Hachinosu, the Beehive. Alright, it's looking pretty rough ever since Garp Galaxy impacted the head of Avala Pizarro and then the Honesty impact from Kobe, right? So Avala Pizarro is the skull of Hachinosu. He's all bandaged up and stitched up. There's like giant band-aids on the mountain and he's just like, oh man, it hurts. You know, Blackbeard is pissed off. He's back in town now. Daddy Blackbeard is in town, and he's like, what did you do? I told you not to wreck anything. I was gone for a few days. Look at what this, damn it. And just like, he's like, how did you let this happen, Pizarro? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Teach. I'm sorry. I wasn't even gone for a few days. Oh, man. So, Pizarro can, like, form his head out of, like, the floorboards of any structure on the island. So he's forming his head out of the floor, and then Blackbeard's grabbing his mustache and just like, you stupid idiot! You know, didn't you hear a word? The world is on the brink right now. You know, the poneglyphs aren't some obscure secret anymore. We gotta get moving. We gotta get shit happening here. I don't have time to be fixing up my own home base, right? So Teach is pretty mad here. Avala Pizarro's apologizing and just like, I'm sorry, Teach. I'm sorry, man. Whatever. And then you let Kobe get away. What the hell? Anyway, we cut to outside where San Juan Wolf is trying to put all the buildings back together. A lot of them got rearranged by Kujaku's whipping prowess. So San Juan's like picking up a town. I like okay, where does this go? Is this the shop? Oh yeah, this is the general store. I remember this. Turns around, his big fat ass knocks over another building. And like, watch it, San Juan, watch it. He's like, oh, what's going on? Oh God, you knocked over the nursery. Pirate Island Nursery, raising the next generation of pirates. All right, but he's like, yeah, so all the pirates are extraordinarily hyped to go after the One Piece, especially after Vegapunk's message, right? So they were just waiting for Teach to get home and just be like, yeah, Teach, let's do this. Go after the One Piece. Yeah, you're here. Let's go. We were waiting for you, right? So everybody's ready to go. Everybody's ready to roll. They're all bandaged up, even though they just got their crap beat out of them by Garp and Sword and the giant golems and everything like that. They're bandaged up and they're not even more intense than before. They're not even more intense from before. Yes! That sounds like a great band name. They're not even more intense from before. Okay, before I cut over all these pirates here, let me see if Krieg and Geen are here just to make sure, because we have a scene where they're all cheering on the, oh, we saw a parrot, we see a random parrot, you know, flying around like, ha-ha! They're not even more intense from before! Just like, there we go. So, yeah, I don't see Geen or Krieg anywhere. You know, joining in the revelries of the moment, but yeah, they're somewhere. We saw them before. Okay, so we have a meeting of the 10 Titanic captains, or at least all of the ones that are currently present on the island. Devon and Augur are going to be arriving shortly. Lafitte is in another location. We'll cut back to him in a second. So we see Shiryu, we see Blackbeard, we see Vasco Shock, Kuzan, Avala Pizarro, Burgess, and San Juan Wolf. Okay, so they're all gathered together there. San Juan is like peeking in from the outside because he's massive, right? And, you know, Teach is there, and he's like, well, at least morale is on the rise. I guess that's something. Also, we lost a Kobe, but we got a Garp. All right, I guess that's a good trade, I suppose. We see Garp in some, like, prison cell on the island. He's chained up with, like, a crap load of chains, just like Big Mom after the events of, like, the Udon prison, like, all chained up and everything. It's making me a little worried that no one is watching Garp, because that feels like you should have somebody guarding that guy 24/7. Like, one of the 10 Titanic captains should be next to him at all times. At least, I mean, I guess Pizarro could be technically always keeping an eye on him because of the island fruit, but, like, yeah, he's chained up in some cell. He's not frozen anymore like he was at the end of the battle, so he's not dead yet. I feel like he's worth more to Blackbeard's crew alive, so he's all chained up. Kuzan is like, to be honest with you, I was trying to kill him, but it's pretty hard to do that, apparently. And Teach is like, yeah, don't be too hard on yourself, Kuzan. You know how tough that old freaking sack of shit is hard to kill? You know, we're not doing it. And it's like, yeah, well, it was a team effort. I mean, we tried to take him down, right? We have Pizarro saying, you keep finding a way to keep trading up in the world, Teach. Because, you know, he starts out as like a zero bounty, no-name pirate, ends up being a warlord, trades in the warlord to become a Yonko, trades in Kobe to get Garp, and, you know, so it does this keep happening in the world of One Piece where, you know, somehow Blackbeard just keeps on, you know, escalating up the tiers and stuff like that. He keeps going up the ladder, right? And Burgess is there, and he's just like, looks like the winds of fortune are favoring us. Woo-hee! You know, woo-hee! Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, they also have Pudding. Pudding is also in the meeting too, so Blackbeard is just like, yeah, we also got this third eye girl that can read poneglyphs, and like grabs Pudding and like just like shoves her like right close next to him. Pudding is just like, oh god, get out, you're so sweaty, get the fuck off me, creepo! Jeez. So Pudding is there, and oh, people have been saying, by the way, that we are going to Elbaf, right? Big Mom has a whole relationship with Elbaf, like, Big Mom comes back and Pudding is captured by Blackbeard. Maybe Blackbeard gets involved here at Elbaf, you know? Because there's a thing, people were saying, like, hey man, Elbaf doesn't seem to have like a major threat in it, you know? We don't know anything about Elbaf really and all that much yet. So maybe it's going to be a short arc. Who knows? Maybe Blackbeard gets involved at Elbaf. Who knows? And then Big Mom shows up and then Pudding has to get freed or something. Like, we don't know. So, yeah, Pudding is captured there. She might have awakened her abilities, so she might actually be able to read poneglyphs. But even if she can read poneglyphs, she would rather die than give that knowledge to Blackbeard. So she is not going to be like, oh, I guess I'll read poneglyphs. Like, no, I think she's going to be, you know, enough, like, integrity to be like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not making you the Pirate King. That's not happening. That's Big Mom's plan. She's not dead either. And then Big Mom emerges at Hachinosu covered in magma, like half of her face is burned off, like, mama, you know, just like a giant kaiju emerging out of the ocean or something, like, and then just starts stomping around, which that would be a wild fight, but yeah. So, what's up with Lafitte? For a while there, I assumed Lafitte was the one that went with Devon to Egghead, because the way that the Blackbeard crew was kind of separated for a while, so we had Teach and Burgess and Augur. And who was the other one that was at, oh, Doc Q. Actually, we do not see, do we see Doc Q in this chapter? Actually, I don't see Doc Q anywhere. Interesting. He might be somewhere. I don't see him in the panel when they're all having the big meeting, though. So he might have went somewhere else. No, wait, is he, oh, no, okay. He's way in the background. He's way in the background. Stronger, I think, is laying on the floor like a dead horse. And I think Doc Q is, like, on top of him. So he's in the meeting, he's just way in the background. But yeah, Doc Q was also at Wiener Island with the fight with Law. And then guarding Hachinosu by the time Sword showed up with Garp and everybody to rescue Kobe, we had Shiryu, we had Kuzan, we had Vasco Shot, we had Pizarro, and we had San Juan Wolf. So the two ones that were not, like, visible anywhere, we did not see Devon and we did not see Lafitte. So Devon and Augur, because Augur can warp, so that's easier for him, I suppose, they went to Egghead. Devon copied the appearance of Saturn, which could still be very relevant, by the way. Just because Saturn is dead now doesn't mean that they cannot use Saturn's appearance in other parts of the world to gain influence. Like if Saturn went to Impel Down or something like that, right? It could still be useful, so yeah. They can't just walk into Marijois as Saturn and be like, hello, I am Saturn, member of the Gorosei. Saturn, we thought you died! It's like, word of my death was greatly exaggerated. I'm fine here. See, this is my cane. And my dreadlocks, of course. All right, well, you got me there, right? No, so they can't just walk into Marijois, but, you know, they could use that appearance for something else, but they don't really bring that up there. We do see Lafitte. Lafitte is at the Navy shipping yard, Umit Shipping. So remember, Umit was one of the guys that was the leader of the underworld. He was like the tall, lanky guy. He was the shipping magnate, okay? The shipping king of the One Piece world. He's the shipping king. Glug, glug, glug. I think Frankie and Robin are gonna get together personally. Glug, glug, glug. Now, as for the Zoro Sanji shipping over here, and he just walks around and does fan shipping, right? But no, you know, there's an aspect of the One Piece world we don't really get to see all that much, and that's of the merchant ships. You know, there's pirates on the Grand Line, there's the Navy in the Grand Line, there's the revolutionaries, but we don't really see, like, there's merchant vessels, there's shipping, there has to be, right? People need to get supplies and stuff. The Navy and Marijois need to get supplies. We see this shipping yard here, and Umit is the head of that. We don't see him in the chapter, but Lafitte is at this shipping yard that is currently, it's on fire. Part of the ships are on fire and everything like that, and I don't think this is because of Lafitte. In fact, he actually specifically mentions the revolutionaries. So the revolutionaries are attacking naval shipping yards, burning all of the vessels that are heading out to Marijois to provide them with food, okay? So that's what the revolutionaries are doing right now, and so Lafitte is just hanging out on top of a building with a Denden Mushi just relaying the message to Teach, and just like, ah, yes, seems like their siege tactics is proving quite effective. They're also destroying the Bondolas. So the Bondolas that are ascending to Marijois from the red ports, I believe there's only 4 Bondolas. There's 2 on the Paradise side, and there's 2 on the New World side, and they go up to Marijois. So you take out the 4 methods of getting up to the top, there's really no flying machines out there. I mean, there are, but, like, you know, there's not very many of them, right? You know, like, we had Enaru's Arc, I guess the Flying Fish, but I don't think the Flying Fish could actually get all the way up to the top of the red line because they have to resurface. They don't have planes and blimps and shit, is my point, right? So, the Bondolas keep getting sabotaged. They keep breaking down, so that means there's revolutionaries stationed in the red port. Now, the red port is located behind Navy HQ, so what they're trying to do, or the way this normally works, is the shipping yard sends the food to Navy HQ, and then Navy HQ will, like, courier it over to the red port and then take it up to Marijois. So all of the ships are being destroyed before they can even reach Navy HQ, and if the Navy tries to send food directly from the HQ to the red port, they can, you know, enforce it that way. The Bondolas break down and they can't get it up to Marijois. So Lafitte is up there and he's like, you know, this is actually a very effective strategy. The Celestial Dragons actually might start starving soon if this keeps going on, with also their granaries and stuff and their stockpiles being destroyed up at the Holy Land. Yeah, this could actually work right here. It is quite unprecedented. And Blackbeard is like, say ha. Well, that's all well and good, Lafitte, but don't lose sight of your mission. Get ready. And so he's just like, understood, Commodore. And that's it. Okay, so Lafitte has a particular mission to do at the shipping yard, where the naval shipping yard, where they're going to be sending stuff to Marijois. So it's very feasible that Lafitte might be trying to get into Marijois, but he's hampered by all of the efforts of the revolutionaries, like, because he's gotten into Marijois before. You know, when he did his little tap dance routine when we were first introduced to him, and he, you know, showed up at the meeting with Sengoku and Mihawk and Doflamingo and Kuma were there and everything like that. That was at Marijois, I believe. So he can get up there, and he also has some devil fruit that allows him to turn into some winged, like, dove or pigeon. Could be an angel, could be a mythical zone, right? He's on top of a building right now, so I'm assuming that's how he got up there. So I don't really think he would need to use like the standard method to like, well then again, he is also a hypnotist, so we assume he might have flown up to the top of Marie Joie last time, but he also could have hypnotized people, right? He could have walked into the Red Port and like hypnotized everybody like, I am a VIP and I am going to go up to Marie Joie. Yes sir, you're a VIP, and then get on there and go up. We also do not know how Lafitte hypnotizes people. It could be like the method of like Django when he uses hypnotism, or it could be like a devil fruit ability, or he's just like, look into my eyes, you know, kind of thing, right? He could be doing that. But yeah, Blackbeard is just like, oh, that's all well and good for the revolutionaries, but prepare yourself, get ready for the preparations, right? And so Lafitte's like, ah, yes, okay, I will. So his preparations have something to do with a shipping yard, heading to Marine HQ, or heading to Marie Joie, one of those locations. And Blackbeard's ultimate goal there, Blackbeard's goal was to use Kobe as blackmail to make him one of an actual king of a country to be invited to Reverie. So maybe that's the reason? Maybe Lafitte is trying to get to Marie Joie to do another meeting, to meet with Sakazuki this time, or one of the Gorosei or something, and be like, ah yes, Blackbeard has captured your Vice Admiral Garp. And he might not even have to go to Marie Joie for this. He might just be able to go to HQ for this, you know, because Marine HQ is also on the way. So he'd be like, ah, we've captured Vice Admiral Garp. If you want him back, this is what you gotta do, you know? So it could be something like that. But Lafitte is definitely like the... Whenever Blackbeard needs to get somewhere that's high security, Lafitte is the man because of his ability, and, you know, he can hypnotize people and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see how this goes. Last shot of Hachinosu, Devon and Augur and Caribou have now arrived from Egghead. And he's like, Pizarro, we have arrived. Lift us up to the meeting. And Pizarro's like, ah, whatever, guys, I'm all banged up. Why are you making me do this? And so he pulls out his giant island arm and literally just picks up the boat and brings it closer to the skull head so they can have the meeting, right? And Caribou's freaking out. He's like, oh, no, 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 this is not happening. It's a giant monster. I want to go home. Please don't kill me. You know, and Pizarro is like, so you really did bring that guy, didn't you? And Devon is like, oh, yes, we did. Now quit yapping, you. And then Augur is like, yes, it's the entire way. He has not shut up a single time. And Augur is like, I have such a headache right now. So anyway, yeah, they're lifting up the ship into like the mouthpiece of the island so they can have that meeting there. And Caribou can explain to them all about, like, okay, it's like, I want to see this so bad. I want to see the moment where Caribou just gets thrown in front of Blackbeard and like, all right, there he is. This is Commodore Teach, one of the Yonkos. Show respect. You said you had something to tell him. You better make it quick. Oh, right. Anyway, sir, it's been a great honor to see you. I could see you guys out there. You're more intense than you were before. But anyway, it's like, yeah, that's great. You know, tell us what you have because you're going to die. Blackbeard gets up and he's like, yeah, I'm a pretty busy guy. I'm pretty awesome. Oh, look at this. I got to kill a dipshit in 5 seconds. You better make it quick. Oh, okay. I don't want to take up your time. Anyway, I know where Pluton is, and I know where Uranus is, and I know where the ancient weapons are. Ah, please don't kill me. And Blackbeard's like, ancient weapons, you say? Alright, I guess I can move this back to 3 o'clock anyway. And it's like, okay, you know, maybe this could work. Maybe this could go down. Alright, we'll see. Alright, last scene of the chapter. The narrator comes on again. We are now 2 days since leaving Egghead. Now, normally, 2 days leaving Egghead alongside the Great Eirik. By the way, we finally get confirmation that is the name of the ship. That was the name of the ship way back 100 years ago. I don't know if it was still the same ship or it's like a ship of Theseus thing. Like, what happens if you take apart a ship and you replace all the parts of it? Is it still the Great Eirik if all the pieces have been replaced? And then if you take all the old pieces and make another ship, even if it's a shitty ship, is that ship the real Great Eirik? Questions. They would normally be at Elbaf right about now. We do see giant fish swimming outside, so they're near the waters. But we only see the Great Eirik. We don't see the Sunny being towed behind it. And all of the giants are weeping. Dory and Bragi are crying. Like, he's like, what's going on? Did we all pass out drunk again? Where's the Sunny? We can't go back to Elbaf like this. So Dory and Bragi are freaking out. The Straw Hats that are on the Great Eirik include Brooke, Robin, Frankie, and Jinbei. Bonnie and Kuma are also there, and Lilith is also there. So that would mean Usopp and Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, they are currently still on, and Chopper, I guess, are still on the Sunny. I guess. Because the only ones we see on the Eirik in these last shots, we see Brooke, we see Robin, we see Frankie, we see Jinbei. We don't see Chopper, we don't see... Yeah, okay. So... This is not... Now, don't freak out, because, like, this happens at the beginning of every arc, basically. The Straw Hats have to get separated at one point. I feel like that's just because, like, if the Straw Hats all rolled up to an island together, like a force of just the 10 of them, just like, we're awesome, you know, like, you know, it makes it easier for Oda to, like, oh, I'll show you something over here, and then while that's going on, I'll show you something over here. So the Straw Hats always get separated. It's not that unusual. Robin isn't even that freaked out by it. She's just like, maybe while we were passed out drunk, a giant fish came by and ate the Sunny. And Frankie's like, hey, don't even joke about that, Robin. You know, the fish are around here. They're big enough to actually do that. Robin's like, I wasn't joking. One of these days, Robin's really macabre humor is actually going to turn out to be true. One of these, like they've actually were eaten by a giant fish. Like, that could have happened, I guess, in theory, right? Anyway, so the giants are freaking out. So I would imagine this is not a common occurrence. This isn't like, you know, oh, yeah, you know, sometimes when you approach Elbaf, you get sucked down into a giant whirlpool, or you got eaten by a giant fish. You know, this happens occasionally, not a big deal. We'll find them. No, even the giants are all losing their shit. So it's like, this is unusual. That should not have happened, okay? So we don't know. They all start freaking out. They begin search operations there. The last page of the chapter, we have Nami. So this is from, like, Nami's POV, okay? So she is asleep. She's, you know, she's waking up from, like, I guess hungover after drinking too much, right? So you just see Nami, like hearing a voice before she opens her eyes. And she's like, Nami! Nami, hey, wake up! And Nami's just opening her eyes and just like, huh? What? Who's that? Oh, and so she's like, gets up and, like, the head just rush hits her, like, oh, I drank too much today. Okay, whoa. And then she gets up. She is wearing Elbaf gear. So she is wearing, like, a cloak and you know, a very revealing Viking outfit, you know, cleavage. It's Nami's outfit, so yes. She's wearing really cool, like, fur-covered boots and stuff. She has a sword on her back. She's getting up, and she's looking, even her hair, I think, is differently styled than it was before. And she is in, for lack of a better term, a Lego castle. She is in a Lego castle. There's a chandelier made of Legos. There's a little potted plant next to her Legos. The floor is Legos. Barrel next to her made of Legos. A little crest, like a little heraldry crest of a little eagle on the side. That little, you just, like, pop on, little, like, Lego castle set or whatever. She's in a Lego house, dressed in Elbaf attire. And she's just looking around like, huh? End of the chapter. No break next week. That's right. 3 in a row, ladies and gentlemen. Woohoo! You know? Okay. So, where is this foreboding place? So, yeah, she's in a Lego house. So foreboding. Lego One Piece Elbaf? What? Okay, I have no idea how they got there. But I'm assuming what happened, I mean, the immediate conclusion I came to, something happened, they were eaten by a giant fish maybe, and then maybe that fish was fished up by a giant, or maybe like a couple of giant kids were fishing on the shore of Elbaf, and they fished up this giant thing, and then it spits out the Sunny, and they're all there, and the kids bring them back to the Viking village, and of course it's Elbaf, you know, the ancient Vikings, of course, had access to Lego. I mean, clearly, you know, oh, I know, Mega Blocks, the Mega Blocks, because they're big, right? Anyway, the kids are like, ooh, we got, like, dolls to play with, I guess, and they dressed up Nami in this outfit and put her in a Viking Lego castle. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Let's just go with that. I mean, clearly they're in a Lego house. It would make sense that on Elbaf, you know, a little, like, toy house or, like... And by the way, I love the fact that Oda's making it Legos. Like, Oda could have clearly made it just like a little miniature house, like a doll house kind of thing, right? Because that trope's been done before to death. You know, there was even, like, an episode of The Twilight Zone about that. Like, you know, they're on an island. I know, I think it was a planet in that one. There was, like, an alien planet where everybody's giant, and these two, like, a husband and wife wake up, and they're in this house, and it's a doll house because the giants are all huge, and they're, like, put them in there and stuff like that, right? So he could have just done doll house, but no, he did Lego doll house. Or Lego Castle. That's Oda. I like it there. But yeah, it looks like something that, like, a giant, like an Elbaf, like kid would, or like a group of children would like find the Straw Hats, dress them up in that attire, and put them in like their Lego house. Like that makes sense to me, so that's probably what happened. I have no idea how they got to the island, but something happened there. It also could be something related. I mean, like, well, they clearly passed out from drinking the absinthe, from drinking the green fairy or whatever it was called. They clearly all passed out drunk from that. They didn't notice the ship getting taken or getting sucked down or something happened there, right? But also keep in mind, this is Elbaf, the land of Norse mythology, after all, right? And we all know, if you've read any bit of mythology, or Norse mythology, or Rip Van Winkle, don't get flat drunk in an area that you're not familiar with. I mean, that's probably good advice just in the real world, but don't get knockout drunk, you know, when you're approaching a giant island based on Norse mythology. You might wake up in some weird Fey realm, you know, or made of Legos, apparently, but whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so it could be something like that. And then also they said, oh, you know, hallucinations too, so this might not even be real right now. Nami might not even be wearing this. She might not even be in the Lego house right now. The Straw Hats might be all, like, just hallucinating, like tripping balls, or like super drunk right now on the ships. I guess that's a possibility too, right? So, yeah. What? At any rate, we'll find out next week, because no break, and we have finally reached Elbaf! I think we're just going to cut right to it. We had 2 chapters to see what's going on in other parts of the world. Marijois last chapter, we saw what was up with Saturn, we saw what was up with Shanks and Blackbeard in this chapter. We didn't really see much about the Cross Guild, but that's okay. We'll cut back to them later. We need to see Elbaf. It's time for Elbaf. Let's get going. Yeah! All right. Well, anyway, yeah, crazy stuff, and we're breaking this down this week. Thanks for watching, everybody, and what do you think happened with the Straw Hats? So let's see, what's our group that we have working with here? So we have Robin, Frankie, Jinbei, and Brooke. That's a nice little group. I think what Oda tries to do every time is take a group of Straw Hats like, oh, this group hasn't hung out a lot together. Okay. Oh, coincidentally, do you see what Oda did? Do you see what Oda did with this? I didn't even notice this until just now. Did you notice how they got broken up? It's the older Straw Hats and the younger Straw Hats. Yeah. Frankie's in his 30s, Robin's in her 30s, Jinbei's in his 40s, I believe, and Brooke is the oldest. He's 90. So they took it's literally the adults as separated from like because the Straw Hats like Sanji and Zoro are like 21 and Luffy's 19 and so that's another thing that you could look at from the perspective of like folklore and fairy tales and things like that. It's like, oh, they get whisked away, you know, into the Fey realm, but the adults stay out of it and they have to go bring them back. You know, could be something like that. There it is. All right. Well, anyway, yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, everybody. See where this goes. Teching signing out. Elbaf. It's always Elbaf.